What's going on, everybody? My name is Travis. Now, have you ever noticed that it's often the things that we cannot see which seem to have the biggest impact on our lives? Think of the obvious one, which is gravity. In too much gravity, we are crushed to smithereens. Too little, we are floating around aimlessly. What about the cells in our body? If our cells are healthy and functioning well, our life is dramatically different to if they are not. Is this also true for the emotions that we feel? Well, absolutely it is. So in this video, we're going to go through 4 steps that any highly sensitive person can use to create mastery of our emotions, so we are never again at the whim of the things that we feel. So let's get straight into it. The first thing we want to do when we're feeling any kind of emotion is to get clarity of what we're actually feeling. Now, why is this so important? Well, think about emotions that you have. So many emotions that we have are often surface level emotions where something much deeper is going on. For instance, a great example of this is the emotion of anger. Now, often anger will present itself when maybe we're feeling something else. Just think about a time where you were angry, and just picture that time in your mind and just go back to it. So just close your eyes for a moment and just do that. Now think, at the time when you felt anger, was it perhaps something else that had triggered that? So maybe someone had said something that was hurtful, or perhaps you may have lost out to something that wasn't fair. Really speaking, what you were actually feeling wasn't anger. Even though anger presented, you were feeling hurt, or you were feeling a sense of loss. Now, both of those emotions can be quite intense in themselves, and they do often present as anger. So that is why it is so important to get clear on what we are actually feeling as opposed to what has presented itself. So once we got clarity on the emotion we're actually feeling, then we can go into step 2. And step 2 is to acknowledge and appreciate what we're feeling. Now, when I first heard this, it sounded very odd to me. It sounded very strange because in my mind, I pictured someone who had complete mastery of the emotions, and that person would only feel certain emotions and never feel others. Other emotions that we typically label to be negative, for instance, sadness or frustration or anger. However, that could not be further from the case. When we do have emotional mastery, we don't limit ourselves to only feeling one set of emotions. When we really master emotions, that means we can feel any emotion within the ability of our abilities as humans. And not only can we feel that, we know exactly how to negotiate that, and that is what true emotional mastery is. Every emotion that we feel, it serves a purpose, and it serves to communicate something to us. So it is so much more important to acknowledge and appreciate the emotions rather than to suppress certain emotions. Now, we so often feel a pressure to be happy or confident, and in doing that, we sometimes suppress other emotions that might be there. It's very important to acknowledge and appreciate that these are the emotions that we're feeling. And once we do that, then we can start working with our emotions to create the change. So once we've done that, we've got clarity now, and once we can appreciate and acknowledge what we're actually feeling, then we can go into the 3rd step, and that is to understand what these emotions are communicating. So as I said before, every emotion is trying to communicate something to us. So if we think back to our first example, and we're feeling anger, and we realize it's not actually anger, but it is hurt that we're feeling. So there's a number of questions that we can ask ourselves, but it is so important to become curious at this time. So what we can do is we can ask ourselves, what happened that triggered these feelings of hurt? Maybe it was something someone said, or something someone did, or maybe something else that brought us memories of our past. Something along the line has triggered that. Or we could ask, what do I have to believe in order to feel these emotions? Because our beliefs and our emotions are so often linked. We have another video on our channel that talks about the power of beliefs for highly sensitive people that we will link in the description if you would like to check that out. Another thing that we can ask is, what do I need to change? Perhaps there's a certain pattern of behavior that we're doing that is no longer serving us, and our emotions keep getting triggered because of this. We can ask, what can I learn from this? How would I like to feel instead? And what can I do to feel this way? Any question we can ask can really kind of drill down to what is really going on when it comes to these kind of emotions. So it is very important to get curious to find out what is actually being communicated. Because once we know what is being communicated by the emotions we're feeling, we can then go on to our 4th and final step, and that is to adjust and take action. So once we have all this understanding and all this self-awareness, we can write down 3 or 4 things that we've learned about this situation and this emotion, and we can also think back to other times we've felt similar emotions as well to get even more insights. And we can write down 3 or 4 things that we can do differently going forward. And another great extra tip is to actually picture ourselves behaving in this way using visualization, and we also spoke about visualization in another video as well, which we can link to in the description. But these 4 steps will create in no time such clarity and understanding about the emotions that we're feeling, and we won't be almost bogged down or weighed down like an anchor when it comes to certain emotions that can really drag us down. And the longer we suppress certain emotions, the more intense that they feel. So that's why sometimes when we're feeling frustrated, which can turn to sadness or anger, and that can really escalate, and now all of a sudden we have an anger problem, or sadness can escalate to depression because we're so busy trying to suppress these emotions instead of listening to what they're trying to communicate to us. And therein lies the key to real emotional mastery. So if you've enjoyed this video or any of the other videos that you've done, please like and subscribe, and we really love producing this stuff for you guys, and we really appreciate all the support that you can give us as well. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy mastering your emotions.